Good morning, everybody. My name is Jero, and I'm the national contact point for Luxembourg for digital and security. Welcome to this webinar, which will be on software trust, privacy, and cybersecurity, focusing on the on the next generation internet. I would like to check if you can all hear me well. So can you please go in a chat and write a simple hello or just confirming that you can all hear me very well. Thank you very much appreciate it. So welcome to this last webinar of our webinar series. This is a closing webinar on the digital topics. So a lot of the topics that might be relevant for you has already been introduced in a previous image. So in a previous webinar. So I hope I can drive you in this aspect. As first things, I also have to apologize for the technical problems we have at the beginning of April when it was first scheduled. For the viewers among you that were registered for the first webinar, my sincere apologies. The digital gods were not with us on that day. So but I'm happy to see you today. I'm happy to see you connected, and I hope you're going to enjoy this webinar. So how this webinar is going to be conducted. Unfortunately, this will be just in terms of audio and video, it's going to be a one-way only, meaning I will not be able to see you. I will not be able to give you the floor. I will only be able to see your questions or your reactions. So I'd like to invite you to look at what is on your right side of your on the right side of your screens on these applications. You have two tabs: the chat tabs and the question tabs. For the chat, please feel free to interact here, to say who you are, to say what you are interested in, to react to some things. But if you have any specific questions regarding to the topics I'm going to present it, please use the question tab. The question tabs, it's like a Slido. You will be able to ask your question. People will be able to like them or and see them. So like this, we can better manage the interaction with you. First, how can we help you? Who we are? So I introduce myself. I'm the national contact point for digital. I'm also the delegate to the program committee. And the Lux Innovation is offering a panel of services related to the European fundings that you can see right in them. We are offering a 360 support regarding EU fundings, from the framing of your project or your ID up to the concrete technical support for during the project or even after the project in case of audit. The only thing that we're not doing, just to make it very clear, is that we're not writing the project for you. That's up to you. But anything on this between the beginning and the end, which is not that, finding partners, getting an understanding of the topic, framing your project ID, this will be more than happy to help. So I have to make a disclaimer. Despite the fact that we are beginning of May, and despite the fact that we had one more month compared to the initial timeline, well, the cluster 4 is a cluster where there is a lot of tensions and an extensive amount of negotiations going on. So we still are under a draft, meaning that everything can change. Not everything will drastically change, but one thing which is currently changing a lot is the number of the budget per topics, the access to those topics to certain country. Luckily, you're not affected as Luxembourgish. And you might have some fine tunings, some legal fine tunings here and there. But it might still be possible that under the Commission's decision, some topics will be cancelled. So we have a delay in the publication of those work programs because there is this extension in the negotiations. So everything can still change, and I'm going to ask you to keep that in mind. We have decided to communicate on those topics nevertheless, because some of those topics require an extensive preparations, early preparations, including starting now, if not already. So we want at least to raise awareness on this topic to you. Next slide. So I'm going to briefly remember the three big advice that we give regarding Horizon Europe. For some of you who have already participated, you know that those webinar series that we're organizing is actually inside the entire communication strategy that we have for the launch of Horizon Europe that we have started last December. Therefore, we already have a lot of events like introductions to Horizon Europe or advanced training for Horizon Europe. The Commission is also performing some on its own side. And we have given, and we have given, but and we still keep giving three main advice when it comes for building a successful proposals. And the first one is the one that you see on the screen. Start early. And we are really not joking on that aspect, especially for the digital topics. Some of those topics require such a long time preparations in terms of pre-proposal and networking that some you need for some topics to start at least a year in advance. And you must understand the policy that is around those topics to make sure you can win. The second advice is network, and network good. The Horizon Europe is actually built on an Horizon 2020 ecosystem, and this ecosystem is complex, is vast, but is also close. So you need to get in it if you want to increase your chance of winning. It is very limited today, the number of projects which is winning the grant if they don't have the good people or the good network in it. So one of the main activities that we want in the support that we will be offering in the coming months, and we are already offering now to you, is this networking aspect. It's not just your own network. You have your own network where you are with people that you used to work with, but you need to be connected to the Horizon Europe ecosystem networks. And for this, we can help you. And the third advice that we want to raise, and we're going to address it during our presentations today, is you need to broaden your horizon. So something that has changed drastically compared to the previous Horizon 2020 is that Horizon Europe now is built around synergies. Synergies between the different topics, synergies between the different branch and structure of Horizon Europe. I'll come to that in a minute, but also synergies with the other programs. And I would like here really to mention the Digital European programs and the Connecting European facilities. So some of those topics you will see it's clearly mentioned. And sometimes the innovation activities that you might want to perform is not in Horizon Europe, while it was used to be in Horizon 2020, but is somewhere else. And therefore, we try to keep a knowledge and an understanding of those synergies and those funding opportunities. So we need to identify and target the right program for you. And for that, you need to get in touch with us. So it's not just Horizon Europe anymore, it's beyond. Now, allow me to make a deep dive to not the entire Horizon Europe, but just to the cluster 4. The cluster 4, as most of you know, it's industry, digital, and space. Well, from the Commission perspective, there is a coherence standpoint, meaning that the Commission has built those programs and the policy around in a very well structured and layer manner. You see those layers in the slide right now, where you have general layers on the top, which is not necessarily mentioned in the text of the cluster 4 work programs. However, you have after on the bottom part of the screens, you have just see the structure of the cluster 4. And that makes the work program quite complex to read because maybe you are interested in doing a specific activities, but maybe this activities is best not funding in cluster 4, but can be funded somewhere else. So at the moment, and I really underline at the moment, there is 189 topics for the next 2 years in the cluster 4, which cover industry, digital, and space. That represents a document actually today is longer than 442. We have reached the 460 pages. But what you need to remember is that, for example, if you want to do machine learning, well, maybe there is a topic outside cluster 4 where you can do machine learning for a specific application. Let's imagine health, for example. And this topic will be better suited than the machine learning topic inside cluster 4. So it's kind of difficult for finding the right opportunities. You need to broaden your horizon again. And that's why you need to we strongly advise you to get in touch with us, where we can at least make a triage for the best opportunity for you. So please, if any of the topic we're going to present today is interesting for you, please do come back to us. So because today is about the next generation internet and cybersecurity, we're going to go briefly over two clusters. The cluster 4, which is industry, digital, and space, and the cluster 3, which is civil security and society. You have in the slide the structure of let's call them the chapter of the two work programs. And you see in the red circle bubbles where we're going to focus the topic today. So there is 4 destinations, or at least I should call them 4 chapters inside the overlapping the 2 work programs that we're going to address today. And you can see that some of the topics or some of their chapters are maybe not of your interest here. We're not going to go through that. At the same way, some of the topics that are inside the chapter, we have already addressed them in previous webinars. So I can only invite you or to go back to read the to replay the webinar, or simply to mention it when we talk about it. For your information, in terms of deadlines for cluster 3 and cluster 4, we have 3 main deadlines in 2021. And we're going to have other deadlines in 2022. You can see them there. I forgot to say previously that the destination is actually what I was calling the chapter. So destination is those sub chapter of the work programs, and you can see them right here. We're going to focus in this webinar to the deadlines in 2021. For the topics in 2022, we're probably going to make a future webinars at the end of this year to introduce them as well. So in this webinar, that cover for 2021, 104 topics for the cluster 4 and 34 topics for cluster 3. Obviously, we will not list them here now because it's going to be, first, it's going to be boring for you. Second, it's not going to be useful and that won't have an added value. We're going to scratch the surface, and I have made an arbitrary selection of the topics that are in relation with the title of this webinar. And that's what I'm presenting here. For this webinar, I want to have a basic understanding with all of you. Let's make a deal. First, I'm going to focus only on the webinar, on the topics for 2021. 2022, you can have a look at it, you can look at the topics, and if you want, we can start talking. But the work for mobilization is now for 2021. I'm going to focus only to the cluster 4 and also to one destination in cluster 3. But please remember that the topic that is the most relevant for you might be somewhere else. But for that, I don't know. I need you to tell me. Then, as I said, some of the topics were quite extensively presented in the previous webinar. For example, we had a webinar in February on data-based economy. So every topic related to data has been already presented, and all the topic in artificial intelligence have already been presented. So in that aspect, in the presentation, you have the link. On our website, you have also the list of the webinar with a link to the replay. So if you want, we will not address those topics again. I'm going to mention them. I'm going to say it has been presented already in that webinar, but I'm going to focus only on the topics that has not yet been introduced. Final and last point, I'm not going to focus on what we call the coordination and support actions. It's a type of instruments, it's a type of topics where you do not make innovation activities, you do road mapping, coordination, networking among the stakeholders. They are not your focus interest. You will not fund your activities, your innovation activities thanks to those topics. I hope this deal is okay with you. You can react in the chat if you want. I can see it if it's okay with you or not. Unfortunately, I'm afraid the deal is not negotiable because I'm the one having the control here. So, thank you, Maria, for your reaction. So allow me to make some personal points regarding those topics. The first one is that, contrary to Horizon 2020, the topics are very wide. You're going to see it. Some of the topics, it doesn't exactly limit the technology that can be used behind. And that means that the way the solutions can be provided by you is really open, making the topics quite competitive. So you have to expect high competitions on those topics. The impact is the driving force, and I really like to insist on that. I have a slide next that's going to introduce that, but I really want to remember. Yeah, the first thing that you have to look at is the impact. Second, is the technology or the innovation you're working on help to solve this impact? Yes or no? And then after you can decide if you want to address or not. And finally, I also have to say the space topic. There have been an agreement between between Lux Innovation and the Luxembourg Space Agency. So we will not address the space topics in this webinar. There have been one of that has been done by my colleague Charles Koeners from the Luxembourg Space Agency. So if you want to any specific approach to space, please contact him. In this webinar, I'm going to present to you the topics in two different ways. First, is it a core topic? In a sense, does this topic is really related to the title of this webinar? Is it relating to software, trust, privacy, and cybersecurity? In this case, I'm going to try to spend 1-2 minutes to present the topic. Second, it's a related topic. In a sense, the core activity is not related to the software, trust, privacy, and cybersecurity, but those aspects are part of the topics. More specifically, privacy and cybersecurity. It can be a transversal issue. You can bring a little contributions to those topics, but it's not the core of the call. And therefore, I'm going to list it. I'm going to give you the information, but I'm not going to present I'm not going to present it deep dive. This is to be used as a reference. So today, that's the deal. We scratch the surface. We're going to see 13 topics where we're going to introduce them, 4 where it's going to be simply referred to, and if you we will not have the time to go deep dive in those topics. If you want to do that, then I'm going to ask you the next step is you reading the topics. So I want to raise your interest. I want to let you know this topic exists. After, the ball is on your side. Is it relevant for you? Is it not relevant for you? Entirely up to you to tell me or to come back to me or to my colleagues to say, yes, this is what we want to do. So let's go now. We start with directly with the topic. And as you remember, in cluster 4, there is 3 destinations, 3 chapters that we're going to see. The first one is destination 6, a human-centered and ethical development of digital and industrial technologies. That's the title. The first topic that I would like to present to you is this topic where we talk about, it's inside the section Leadership and AI Trust. It's AI to fight disinformation. So here, the Commission is calling for advanced AI solutions to identify and target and detect disinformation techniques. There is 2 ways that the topic is separated in 2 ways. First, it's for professional practitioners. So it's for allowing to develop a services for the media, the news, for the scientists also to detect disinformations. The second one is for the citizens, meaning that helping the citizens to identify that the information that they are reading at the moment or the information they are collecting is fake news, if you allow me to use the word. So here you have 2 ways to address those end users. You can have an AI solutions that help to detect the disinformation. You can use it for the professional, or you can use it for the citizen. You have to remember in terms of synergies that this topic is built in collaboration with another topic, which is the topic in cluster 3, which is a topic in the section Fight Against Crime and Terrorism. I don't think I'm going to mention it quickly, but to discuss more. On the right side of your screen, you will see those symbols all along my presentations. They represent three things. First, they represent the top one is the deadlines with a budget allocated to the topics. The second one is the instrument, where you got RIA, which is Research and Innovation Action, which means it's funding 100%. And you might see IA, Innovation Actions. In that case, that means the topic is funding at 70% for the industry. Finally, you've got the last block, which is actually what the Commission is writing in the text, saying that they expect project to be that big. So you have the budget expected for per project. So here in this topic, for example, you can understand that the Commission is actually expected to fund two projects, one addressing professional practitioners, one addressing citizens, and both with a 6.4 million euro project. I move forward. My advice, if you want to work in that, this is a topic which is built between different policy at EU level. It's between the European democratic action plans, between the data-oriented economy, between the digital shaping the future of digital Europe. Therefore, it's a topic which is kind of new, but which has to be built on previous results. And therefore, I strongly advise you, if you're interested in that, to get in touch with AI PPP, with the AI public-private partnerships, which is actually the associations of organizations that are doing a strong lobby toward the European Commission for having this topic funded. So these are the core partners, the key stakeholders in Europe that if you get in touch with them, you increase your chance of being funded. I go to the next topic. This one, we are in the different sections, which is an internet of trust. And you have the topic, which is about trust and data sovereignty on the internet. So here, the impact expected is that thanks to the solutions or to the product that you're going to develop, you're going to increase trust and privacy, but specifically, and I really want to underline, user control. So you need to have a way to implement the GDPR rules, the GDPR regulations, but in a way that when individuals are exchanging their personal data, being any type of personal data, the individuals keep the control and can decide what will happen with those data. It is based on identity, on the electronic identity. So here you will need to use a current ecosystem, the EU ecosystem in terms of electronic identity, EIDS, for example, if that rings some bells to you. And finally, you should build this topic on the other topics, which is related to the data space. So the Commission is funding also in some other part of the program and inside the Digital European program, European data space and European data platforms. You will need to build this. The product and the services that's going to be developed inside this topic will actually be added to the ecosystem of those data space. So you need to get in relations. And my advice then is you need to network. The Commission has already found topics on this, data exchange platforms for personal data, but also industrial data. You have 9 projects which is currently running. If I remember well, 3 of them are addressing personal data. You need to get in relation with those peoples. I go to the next topic, which is this time is trustworthy open search and discovery. So here we go toward more the search engines, and more specifically the open search engine. First, I would like to mention what you can see on the top right corner is a beautiful pictures of a cascade, of a water cascade. What does that mean? That means that this is actually one topic where the Commission wants to reach an extended number of startups and SME. And therefore, instead of making big projects with hundreds of partners, you are invited, if you participate to those projects, to run open calls. So I'm not going to dwell too much about what are open calls, but you must remember that a part of the budget that you're going to receive are supposed to be redistributed in smaller amounts to an entire ecosystem. So please keep that in mind. And if you want, you can raise questions for the end of this webinar. So back to the topic. Trustworthy, open search, and discovery. So here, what the Commission wants to develop is simply ways of searching and discovering informations. And if you can read behind what's going on in the digital ecosystem, what the Commission wants to develop is actually EU ways of searching and discovering information. So we heavily rely on US-based search tools and search engines. The Commission would like those activities to be built, these topics to be built on EU technologies. That means that if you are interested in working in that, you better get in touch with the EU-based search engines. So that kind of already give hints about where to look. And you have two research areas. The first one is advanced method of search and discovery. And I would like to mention, to really underline the fact that in this topic, what the Commission is said is the multi-aspect, the multi-format of the search and discovering. So it's not just text-based, but it's also voice, natural language processing, semantic, and it's open to other methods of search and discovery. So if you are working on a specific methods for search and discovery, you can also bring it here. The topic is not closed. Then there is another area which is about the infrastructures. In this case, you have to understand the capacity and the capabilities, so the techniques and the skills, and that is targeting just the autonomy, the digital autonomy policies. One of the impact that the Commission is expecting with this topic is to increase the European competitiveness, and I would like really to underline that, the sovereignty in the future search engine. You really need to build on EU-based data. EU-based technology. Do it the European way. Again, here, once you have said that, you kind of guess which industry needs to be targeted in Europe or which organizations are involved in this. So you increase your chance if you get in touch with those people. In this section, in this destination, I would like to mention some other topics which is related to software trust and privacy. So you have those two topics, which is about the development of trustworthy AI. You also have I quickly mention here a coordination and support actions about any activity that's going on with standardization of European AI. This has been addressed in a webinar of the 11th of February. So when you will receive the presentation, the link that you will be when you will click on webinar 1102 will send you directly to the replay. Other topics still under the AI leaderships, and I would like to take a minute to mention it, is about the European networks of AI excellence centers. So here, for those of you who are not aware, it's AI for EU. I have extensively communicated on this inside Luxembourg, but it's worth repeating it. The European Commission has launched since 2018 a lighthouse initiatives, which is called AI for EU, which is the backbone ecosystem for any research and innovation connected in AI. It's a huge network which is built with a lot of ramifications in different applications, but basically this will be the main source of research and innovation activities in AI in Europe. It's not a perfect project. It's not a perfect initiative. It doesn't work. You might disagree with what has been implemented there, or you might find the quality to be bad. Yes, that's possible, but nevertheless, this is a flagship initiative. Therefore, you have to connect with them. And for that, we are in very good relations with our coordinations, but also with our core teams. And being in touch with them, statistically, it has been proven since it has been launched, you increase your chance of being funded. If you have their partners with them, you are more likely to be funded. The other topic that I would like to mention is about tackling gender, race, and other bias in artificial intelligence. So this is quite a topic which is oriented towards social science and humanities. How to address the bias that artificial intelligence are creating. We have a lot of headlines in the news that has given us example on that. And that's it for the destination 6. I'm now going to go for destination 3, which is about world-leading data and computing technologies. I would like to remind you that there you still have the chat and the questions bar. So can I have a little hi? Are you still there? Are you still bored or are you still alive? I see some people reacting, taking notes. Okay, still there. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Just it's nice to see that you still. I haven't killed you. So we have made one destination, which is the main one for software trust and privacy. Let's now go in another destination where it's maybe less trust and privacy, but trust and privacy is mentioned. So in the destination, world-leading data and computing technology, I think you understand that this is a destination that gather AI and HPC and data. So for Luxembourg, it's quite a priority. So the first, Maria, I've shown your questions. I come back to it in after, if you don't mind. The first topic that I would like to present you is this one, which is technology and solutions for compliance, privacy preservation, green and responsible data. So if you remember, that was one of the topics that I mentioned are actually extremely wide. Basically here, the commission say digital technology, method, architecture, and processes. Okay, what is out of that? What is left out of that? Actually, I don't know. But basically, any kind of activity that can support the collection, storage, processing, querying, analytic, and delivery of data implemented with the EU value, so meaning following the GDPR, can be found here. So you can come with any methodology, technology, solutions, services, whatever you want, to help to have this compliance and to preserve the privacy of those data that can fit in it. As you can see, this is a big topic, more than 50 million euro. So there will be competitions because it's extremely wide in terms of activities, but there is room for it. There is a room for it. A novelty in this topic is that the Commission has introduced what is called environmentally sustainable data. I will be honest, we're not exactly sure what that means. So we may understand that data storage or data management or data use is using resources which are not necessarily climate friendly. How do we address that? I'm going to trust you might know better than me here. So if you have any expertise in environmental sustainable data management and usage, this is a topic for you. Finally, I'd like to start that this topic is not a topic that just pop out of nowhere. It doesn't start from scratch. There is a bunch of data exchange platform project that has been funding. This is the ICT 13 project. There is a research infrastructure and there is a digital European program data space. So when you will build those topics, when you will build those projects, you need to take into consideration the synergies that you need to build with other initiatives. On this aspect, my advice, you need to get familiar with a portfolio of projects. We have it. If you want those portfolio of projects, we can send them to you. But that means you need to spend a little bit of time on the website of those projects to look at what they are doing, who they are, what are their methodology, what are they doing which is different than you, or what are they doing that is the same than you, and you need to get in touch with them. Most of those people, once they have been in a project funded, are joining the big data value associations, which is one of those data-based ecosystem doing some lobbying at the European Commission, and it's partner of the AIPPP. So my advice is you need to go to see those people. They are organizing networking events, they are organizing brokerage sessions, but basically a phone call to somebody that you know which is in part of it is the first step that I would recommend once you have identified the ecosystem. I go to the next topic, which is about technology for data management. So here we're really in a software approach. Here, the Commission wants to support the development of data management tools. It puts 3 adjectives in front of it: new, secure, and energy efficient. But anything which is about data management, technologies or services, this is where you can get funded. One of the impact that the Commission wants is the second bullet that you see: improve the interoperability, quality, and integrity of data and metadata. I would really like to understand that the topics is addressing also metadata. So you need to take into consideration that with those data space that we're going to be funded, we want them to be interoperable. We want to be able to plug one place to another without too much effort. And this not only at the industrial aspect, but also at the personal aspect. You need to make demonstration of that. You need to make demonstrations activities in use cases. And the Commission is mentioning that those use cases must be in different sectors. So you can maybe make data management technology that can apply for health, logistics, transport, personal data, any kind of things that we want, but you need to make a demonstrations. Again, this topic doesn't start from scratch. It starts from AI for EU. It starts from some previous topic like the ICT 48 topic and the Digital European Program. Again, if you want the portfolio of those related to those topics, get in touch with us. We have them. My advice, again, get familiar with the portfolio and get in touch with BDVA. I go now to the next topic, which is about extreme data mining, aggregation, and analytics technologies and solutions. So here, it's again a topic which is quite wide because there is no really limitations. It addresses technologies, tools, solutions, and also in some aspect methodologies. So this is a topic for data sharing. I would really like to understand, but here we're addressing extreme data. And the topic is giving a definition of extreme data. So have a look at the text and understand what it means. But it's not necessarily a huge volume, but it means a huge also diversity about the data. Different format, different different volume, different speed of acquisitions. So you need here to develop technologies that helps data mining, whatever the format of the data is coming, and whatever the needs of cross the check or cross section data. You need here to integrate different technologies. You have the list. You have the list here for the different technologies. And again, you should not start from scratch. So here you have again the AI for EU top project that is the base of the work, but you also need, it's mentioned in the text, to get in touch with the digital innovation hubs, and more specifically with the European digital innovation hubs. My advice is the same here. Get familiar with the portfolio. The work has already been started in previous topics. Now get in touch with the correct people. Then I would like to go present the next step, the next topic, which is about future European platform for the edge. So here we're talking about, of course, edge IoT-based platforms, and the topics is really focusing on meta operating system. And I really want to underline that we're not addressing the network or the architecture of the network. We're really addressing just the edge sections, the edge part of a network. So we are talking here about cloud infrastructures, of course, but really a way to bring the intelligence of the networks to the edge. So here, what the Commission is looking for is what you see in the first bullet point: next generation of higher level meta operating system for smart Internet of Things. You need here to develop you need here to support the applications with which are hyper distributed among inside the network. You need to really bring what was at the core of the network today. You really need to bring to the edge. So the closer the computations, the algorithm is close to the productions where the data is produced, the better. Here, today, we are heavily relying on many US, but also Chinese-based technologies. So the Commission really wants to build on EU technology here. So you really need to develop the European way. And we have an opportunity here from a policy perspective where an open edge ecosystem is not exactly existing today. It start to be formed. So here this topic is made to support the formation and the structuration of the open edge ecosystem. As you see, this is a topic which is calling for a wide budget, more than 50 million euro. So it's quite a priority for the European Commission. Okay, that was for destination 3. I'm not going to go for destination 4, which is digital and emerging technology for competitiveness and fit for the Green Deal. So here I'm going to mention justly the different topics related to AI. So we have one topic which is AI, data, and robotic for the Green Deal. So you have to understand that from the Commission perspective, AI is a convergence between data and robotics from the previous activities. So data, robotics, and software. I forgot. So the three are merged. So that if you see robotics, that doesn't mean that you need to work with robots here, but that means that you need to work with at least data and software. So here it's simple. It's really oriented toward the Green Deal policies. You need to develop solutions for optimizations and of the resources, of the use of resources, and the minimization of waste in any type of sectors. So here we have a topic which is really oriented toward an impact which is not a digital impact. You need to have to reduce the waste, whatever the list of sectors, there is the type of sector, the list is given. And one aspect of doing that is by using database optimization of the applications. So here you really have an expertise métier that needs to be set. We're talking about integrations of solutions. So you don't, and it's an innovation action. So we do not start from low tier. We do not start from university oriented work. We really are talking about existing solutions and how to optimize them. And of course, you need to have industry and end users. So you should have demonstrations about those database optimizations in at least 2 different sectors. Here, my advice is again to get in touch with the correct ecosystem, and again it's AI, PPP, BDVA, but also EU robotics. So you might have a lot of interest specifically in the manufacturing inside the EU robotic for reducing the waste thanks to data management optimization. I go to the next topic, which is this time not for the Green Deal, but AI, data, and robotics at work. So here it's very simple. It's a topic that's supposed to increase the trust in AI technologies. And by doing that, by making how to do that by making demonstrations and demonstrations in situ. So here you have to build project where you demonstrate how AI, data, robotics, automation solutions can support workers, and workers in any type of sectors. Doesn't have to be workers in the factories, but it can be also workers in offices. So how can this technology can help in their daily task? The topic is divided in 4 sections. And this is what you have. It's actually 2 subsections, and each subsection divided in 2 subsections. So first is based on use cases, and here we have AI embedded with robots, and here it's more targeting the manufacturing sectors. Then we have non-embodied AI, meaning without the robots. Here it's more office-related work. And then after you have 2 types of projects. So you have the project where you make demonstration focus on industry. And you have another project where you do the same thing, but you make open calls, meaning you don't know yet who will be your end users, specifically SMEs and startup, but you will have open calls for they will be able to get access to the solution that you have developed. This is an ecosystem building topic. So you do not start from scratch in terms of constructing this ecosystem. It's already existing via the AI PPP. So you really need to be strongly connected with them. And here, if you are interested in the robot aspect, EU robotics is a place to be. That was the end for cluster 4. I would like now to go toward cluster 3, where we're going to look at the topics for increased cybersecurity. I see some at least pop-up questions, which is from Uwe. So allow me to read it. So Uwe Roth, I ask the question that indeed in the topic, which 80% of the budget should be spent to third parties. So that was just those topics where I put a waterfall because it's called cascading grants. Please clarify the consequences for the profile of a consortium, meaning how much on research activities are possible by the consortium. Those topics, which are cascading grants, are just the topics where research activities in your university is extremely limited. We're talking about giving access to technologies here. So you can start from I might strongly advise to start from prototypes for TRL where you are already around 5 or 6, and then a part of the activity, the 20% of the budget, can be dedicated for maturing or bringing higher TRL to those technologies. But research activities is limited, really limited. Innovation activities can be performed, but on this way, you're completely right. You will not be able to do extended research in those topics. I move on. Are you still there with me? Can I see some up, please, while I'm taking a glass of water? Thank you very much, everyone. So let's go now in the last sections of this presentation, which is about just the cybersecurity, increased cybersecurity, destination cluster 3, security in general. Oh, sorry. No. So the first topic that I would like to mention is the one which is called dynamic business continuity and recovery methodologies based on model and prediction for multi-level cybersecurity. So those topics are a little bit, what to say, they are wide also. They are also wide in terms of what you can do, but basically they are built in the continuations of what has been done before, which is about building the capacity for defense, protections, discovery, recovery. That's the 3 main sections on the cybersecurity topics. Here, we're talking about a topic where the Commission wants to develop AI-based self-healing technologies. So basically, artificial intelligence to support the recovery of the business. So if a business is being attacked, of course, there is the protection that has been failed, but what after the attack? So how do we bring back the organizations to business as usual thanks to AIs? This is what the Commission wants to see in those topics. You need to base your activity in real case, real world applications. So you need to have industries, or it's not necessarily industry here. That can be also public administrations and hospitals. So you need end users. You really need end users involved in those projects. And you need to relate to what the regulation said, what is critical sector. Critical sectors in the NIST directive, so the cybersecurity directive, is actually acknowledged as an activity that if it disturbs, it has an economical impact. So that's quite broad. For example, data servers are now recognized as critical sector. So you need to have, you need to cover at least 2 sectors, 2 different sectors. Let's say, for example, health and telecommunications. And you need to build AI-based self-healing. We have a wonderful example yesterday, or 2 days ago, sorry, with what happened in Belgium, where institutions were targeted. So I don't know if they use AI solutions for helping the recovery, but they are sure spending a lot of energy for the recovery right now. One impact that the Commission would like to see in this topic is the data sharing. As you know, it is very difficult to have a share of information while you are under attack. Basically, majority of organizations, specifically private organizations, doesn't like to acknowledge the fact that they have been attacked and that the attack succeed. So this is something that needs to be addressed, and you need to be able to encourage the data sharing, specifically between the different security actors. Finally, there is an inclusive aspect to address, so the social science and humanities. So you need to address the behavioral, psychological, culture, and gender aspect of cybersecurity. How do we all differently live with cybersecurity? This needs to be addressed in the topic as well. My advice here, so we got a different ecosystem, a different associations at EU level, which is called EXO, which is the European Cybersecurity Organizations. So it's a network of organizations specialized in cybersecurity, who is doing quite some lobbying toward the commissions for having topics drafted in Horizon Europe. So again, to increase your chance of winning, get in touch with them. I continue and I go to the next topic. So this time is about improve cybersecurity in open source and open specification hardware for connected devices. So we're talking, of course, here about IoT, but IoT in this broad sense. That can be any type of IoT. For example, autonomous car can be considered as an IoT device. And here, what is the Commission is looking for? First, we need to increase our resilience against, in the case of open source and open specification hardware. But the problem that the EU is facing in that those solutions has been developed quite sectorally. So there is verticals here, which is fragmented the cybersecurity solutions in the IoT domains. It has been acknowledged by the IoT ecosystem, and therefore, what the Commission wants to support in this topic is the horizontal cybersecurity solution that can work for any type of IoT. Of course, we're talking about open sources and open specification IoT-based technologies. So you need here to reinforce the cybersecurity on open source environment. And that's something which require quite some work, specifically if you want to have at least 2 different research activities. So the work package, the work program is giving 7 research activities. You must address at least 1, but that means that you need to address at least 2 if you want to get a chance to be funded. And you need to get SMEs involved here. Luckily, the majority of IoT device company are SMEs, even startups for some of them. So get in touch with them to allow to increase their cybersecurity. My advice here, again, you can get in touch with EXO, but also another association, which is IIoT, the Association for Internet of Things Innovations. And it's an association which regroups, I think it's more than 300 now, more than 300 organizations or SMEs that is working with IoT, and that is also doing some lobbying toward the European Commission. So get in touch with those people, that increases your chance of being funded. I go to the next topic, and this time is a kind of bridge between artificial intelligence that we've seen in the previous destination, in the previous cluster, and this and cybersecurity. So it's AI for cybersecurity reinforcement. So here it's basically the use of AI, this time not for the recovery, like we saw 2 topics away, but this time for the defense, for the protections. So increase the resilience using AI against AI-powered cyber attack. So that's something which is on the rise drastically today. And we want just to have AI-based method and solutions in 4 different capabilities. You have the list on my second bullet point. And if you understand correctly the structure of the topic, this topic is like pre-failure. And the other topic that we see 2 topics ago was post-failure. So recovery. Here, you must be very careful when you work in this topic, because we are on the edge of a lot of ethical aspects related to AI. So there is, I would like to invite you to get familiar with the ethical guidelines for trustworthy AI. And 3 weeks ago, the Commission has published an update for the AI, the European Coordinated Action Plans on AI. There is in it 40 actions. I invite you to get familiar with it, because you're going to need to mention it. As you understand, it's a very challenging topic. It's really resource demanding, yet the budget is not extraordinary, to be fair. So you need to build your project in synergies with other projects, specifically the Horizon 2020, the Horizon Europe Cluster 4, the Digital European Program, and the relevant data existing today, data infrastructure existing today. So it's quite a complex project to build. You might be excellent in the AI-based solutions, but the network and the synergies that you need to build needs to get familiar with the ecosystem. So here, my advice is against to get really in touch with this ecosystem, because they're going to simplify you the access to it, and you can push for your expertise. I go for the next topic. This time we are on the human-centric security, privacy, and ethics sections. And here we're talking about the topics try to address an issue which is about cross-border federated computations. So if you can make the link with Euro HPC, or with a computation power which is distributed among Europe, one aspect that is complicated is to make sure that the privacy is preserved when you plug or exchange the data at this between those computations. So here, the purpose of this topic is to develop privacy-preserving computation techniques, and computation techniques that are distributed. The Commission is giving a list of example: homomorphic encryptions, secure multi-party computations, differential privacy. You can work on that, it's advised, but if you have a different methodology, you can bring it. What is very important here is that your solutions, the solution that's going to be developed, must be scalable, in a sense that it can work with on one infrastructures, on 100 infrastructures. It can work on a small set data set, on a huge data set. It can work on a single format data set. It can work on multi-format data set. And the privacy must be preserved, whatever. So in the way it's framed, the way it's presented in the topic, the Commission wants to address realistic, so real problems. So here, everything that has happened with the COVID-19 is an example about how we can exchange our data privacy, or data preserving our privacy. The digital passport, for example, or those COVID alerts that we have faced in the different countries, and how to connect them in a trustful way. It's not a new topic in the aspect that there have already been some hits based before. There have been already some topics working on the personal data exchange. I've been already mentioning here them. Here the topics, the text is really referring to the legacy aspect. So you must really build your work on what has been already been done, and you must respond to what is the need from the user. It is written in the text that this topic should be built in should be built in synergies with the data topics in cluster 4, so the one that I've presented to you earlier, and also with the European data space, which are to be found inside the Digital European Program. Here, my advice is indeed to get in touch with EXO. Actually, you should. I think it will be also interesting to get in touch with BDVA. I haven't write them here, but I think this will be a good place to start. And I also dare to say maybe Gaia X initiatives could be something that could be useful here. A quick word on the destination 5 of cluster 4, which is about space. So as I said, I'm not going to address the space topic here. My colleague from Charles Kooners from the Luxembourg Space Agency will, but please keep in mind that there are some topics which are data related in space. So it's my understanding that ICT in space and ICT in other application is working very differently, and sometimes the same actors. But if among you are working on digital for space, please be aware that there is those topics, and I can only invite you to get in touch with my colleague Charles Kooner for making a review. Finally, and we're reaching to the end of this webinar. Don't forget that everything has been built in synergies. Synergies inside Horizon Europe. So you need also to look at what there is outside Cluster 4 and outside the Cluster 3. So look at what there is in health. Look at what there is in culture, creativity. Look at what there is in climate, energy, and mobility, or food, bioeconomy, or even somewhere else. And also, just to give you a sneak peek, I've got list here 2 topics which are inside. One is inside the health cluster. The other one is inside the mobility cluster, where you can see that privacy, software trust and privacy and cybersecurity will be needed here. Also, look beyond Horizon Europe. So there is other initiatives where software trust, privacy, and cybersecurity will be needed. You've got a mention here, the Digital European Program. I have to say at the moment, Lux Innovation is not mandate to work on that. So we keep a little bit of knowledge about it, but we don't know deep dive the things, but we can do it if you request it. There will be also the work program for Euro HPC, where you're going to have more computing capabilities, activities, but where software and cybersecurity will be needed. The same thing goes to was a new Excel, the K Digital Technology Program. So for Euro HPC and the Smart Networks and Services, which is a new program which is dedicated for 5G and 6G. For those three things, Euro HPC, KDT, and Smart Network and Services, the draft are not yet developed. We have some general orientations, but we still doesn't have any draft to share with you. And I finish with the last program, which is connecting European facilities. This is a topic. This is a program which funds the network. And when I mean the networks, I mean here the telecommunication networks and not your individual networks or associations. And specifically the interconnections between member states. Here also, we do not have yet the work programs. It's still being developed. So keep this in back of your head. You might have relevance activities there. Allow me to finish with mentioning one thing. So this is a new program. It's not exactly changing compared to Horizon 2020, but it's changing quite in the terms of what needs to be done. So the best school for understanding how to write a successful proposal is to become an expert. And I'm not saying becoming an expert like I'm becoming an expert at my home, and I mean become an expert for the evaluation. So become actually an evaluator for the European Research Innovation Program. So the Commission is calling for a renew on the database of experts to participate to the evaluations. I can only strongly advise any one of you to register there. I'm aware it's take a little bit of time. It's a navy things to do because you have to list all your expertise. You also have to list all your past experience and also the project you might have built with other, because there is a conflict of interest check which is made. But if you get selected for making an evaluation, so for becoming an evaluator, then is this going to be the best school ever for writing a successful proposal afterwards. So my strong advice for that. That's the end of my presentations. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to go now to see if there is any questions in the tab, in the chat, but I would like to get some reactions in the chats for while I'm doing that. So are you still there? Are you still with me? Or are you, what are your first reactions? What are your first feelings about those topics? So I see some people are reacting. Okay, thank you very much. So in terms of questions, I see that I have a reply the question from Uwe. So I'm going to close it. But there is a question from Maria Radulovic about if I have a relevant list of partners for specific topics. At the moment, the short reply is no, because we know some consortium have started to build. We know what they are, but I do not have a list for each topics. What I've been giving you during this presentation is justly where you can find the best people. So you've got this association at EU level, BDVA, EXO, EU Robotics. This is where you will find the people. So you need to network there. The next step that I can only invite you to do is, once you have identified the topic, come back to me and my colleagues, and we're going to drive you toward the right persons. Maybe there are persons that are in your own network already. Maybe there are different persons. So we do not build an Excel file with a list, but we have some hints, and we have the portfolio of projects that drive us toward the correct people. That's the two questions that I seen in the chat. I think then, therefore, I'm going to give you just 10 more seconds for writing anything. But allow me that in the meanwhile to thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for your participations. Today we scratch the surfaces. So really, I just show you the topics to raise your awareness. The next step, it's on your side. If you want, ask for the draft if you don't have them yet. They have been published, so you can find them quite easily. But ask for the draft, read the draft, and then come back to us, come back to me and to my colleagues to say, I'm interested in these topics. I've decided I want some support. I want to get a network. The ball is on your side. Thank you very much for your attention. And this is the end of this webinar. I wish you a very nice day.